pesto with yogurt instead of cream. Lots of parmesan and some crispy crunchy croutons. It's a really great fast weeknight meal that essentially you can make with whatever you've got in the cupboard, even if it does have a cheeky little double carb on top. What we're going to need to make this quick chicken pasta pesto is just some ingredients. I've got a little bit of homemade pesto that I made the other day left over. I've put a link to a video about how to make it if you've got lots of basil that's gone to seed in your garden, or you can just buy it. But I love making it because then you can make it exactly how you like, more cheesy, more nutty, whatever it might be. I'm going to use some Greek yogurt. I've got about 3 teaspoons here, and this is a really good way to make it, you've got a lot of cheese in there, which is quite fattening, but this is just some Greek yogurt, so instead of using like cream, makes it not so heavy, and yeah, just a little bit more creamy, so it's not just a plain pesto. And then I'm going to add into it a bit of chopped courgette, some tomatoes. Again, I've just got lots of cherry tomatoes at the moment coming off my garden. Really good way to use some up. Some fresh basil leaves. If you don't have it, it really doesn't matter. You know what would be really good? If you had some frozen spinach, that'd be a great addition to this meal. Or if you didn't have a courgette, maybe you had some broccoli. It's always about what you've got in the fridge, I'm not a purist or a biased about what goes into this meal. This is solely here to give you guys some great ideas about things that you just wouldn't even think about. I'm here for all you people who cannot cook but would love to be able to. That's what this channel's about, making things easy and accessible. Just some chicken thighs. I've got 2 chicken thighs here. This dinner will be enough for 2 people. I mean, these are quite big. I probably could just use 1 thigh because we're going to bulk it out with other vegetables. And then some pasta. You can use whatever shape you've got. Spaghetti, fettuccine, orecchiette, rigatoni, penne pasta, swizzles, twizzles, whatever it is. I've gone for some swiggles. So we're going to prep all of these things and get them all ready to go. And while we're chopping them and prepping them, we're going to put a big pot of water on the stove for the pasta. And when you're making pasta, you want to make sure that the water is really seasoned. Salty like the ocean, I believe, is the phrase that lots of people like to use. But when it's really nice and salty, it means that it seasons your pasta while it's cooking, which is just really great because then you don't need to add so much maybe to your meal, but also it means that these guys are not bland. They're really, they've already got a little bit of salt in them and they're already packing that punch. So let's get all of this prepared and then we'll start cooking it. Weeknights are harsh. No one wants to cook. Pasta, really easy option. Doesn't have to have chicken in it. If you want to make it vegetarian, pack it full more of veggies. Also absolutely delicious. This is just a quick, fast meal. That's what I'm here for. The quick, the fast, the good. So then we should just get this prepped. This is the big pot that I'm going to use for the pasta. So I'll almost fill it up the whole way because the more space for it to move around, the better. It won't stick together. And it's great because it's got a lid, which means it will come up to the boil quicker, which is just great because, again, that makes it fast. And that's why it's important we get it on first so that it's already boiling and ready to go once we've done all of our prep. And then this is the one that I'm going to use to actually cook the chicken in and make the sauce and everything that's going to go with the pasta. So I like using this because it's got a nice rimmed big edge. If you've only got a flat saucepan, absolutely fine. But these are a good investment. I really like these things. It's just good because then it means you can give it a good shake and all the stuff isn't going to come flying out. So, if you're in the market for looking for a new pan, go get yourself one of these bad boys. I'm going to use a chicken thigh for this. I much prefer it. It's a little bit more juicy. A breast dries out a bit and you just got a little bit more fat in there. So it's just a little bit more tasty. As you can see here, this is deboned. I've also got a little video on how to debone chicken thighs. It makes it a little bit cheaper to purchase. And like I said, we were going to use maybe 1 or 2, and I actually am just going to use 1. It's also a really good way to save a little bit of money and get the most out of what you're making. Pasta is relatively cheap, but meat is quite expensive, so it's up to you. If you want to put a bit more meat in, then sure. But I'm just going to chop this up into small cubes, and it'll probably be enough for 2 people with the addition of the vegetables. As you can see here, I've chopped it up, and that's made, you know, it's made quite a lot of dice. That's more than enough. Plus as well, you might want to be trying to cut back on meat. This is a really good way to do it. Also, if you cut it up smaller, it's going to cook quicker. So that's another good way to make this a super fast meal. Always important when you finish working with chicken that you give your knife a good wash with hot and soapy water and give your board a good scrub. I'm going to pop these to the side and we'll carry on prepping the other stuff. Just a little message from me to you. If you're new here, I'm new here too. I've only just started here on YouTube, and I would just really appreciate if you could, you know, follow me along on this journey. I'm here to teach you guys how to cook. I've been doing this for 20 years, and I just want to pass on all my knowledge to you. So it'd be awesome if you could give me a little like or maybe a subscribe, and yeah, let's get back to what we love doing, cooking. We're going to cut the tomatoes in half because they're very small. Pop them on your plate so that we can use them in a bit. We'll cut the courgette into small dice, once again, about the same size as the tomatoes so that it's quick to cook. They can go with the tomatoes. I'm going to cut 1 whole red onion and 3 to 4 cloves of garlic. These are like your aromats, and these are the things that are going to really make it taste great in the beginning when we cook them off. So, you know, the more the merrier. There they are peeled, and then we'll just chop them up. A nice fine dice of onion, but you know, never get rid of these bits. You can always just chop them up however you like, so just make sure you leave your tiny root. And that's the garlic done too. Oh, onion, so strong, making me cry. Anyway, there they are, chopped up. We're just going to add them to the plate so that we can take this to the stove when we're ready to go. I also just remembered I have some thyme in the garden, so a little bit of chopped thyme will be absolutely great in this. You know what? If you didn't have any fresh thyme, you could use some dried thyme, because often you might have that in the cupboard. It's a good little addition and a great little flavour. He can go on there too. We'll get the parmesan grated so it's all ready for the end. Like the Girl Guides say, always be prepared. And you know, because we're using yogurt instead of cream, why not load up on the parmesan? This is the bloody good stuff anyway, that's what you want. And then we'll also just prep the basil leaves. They can just be torn up into a little pile. And then I'm just going to rip them with my hand, because you don't need to cut them up. It's lovely to have a big chunky bit. I'm just going to sit them in the bowl on the side of the parmesan, because we don't want to add these while they're cooking, because they'll kind of go a bit grey and lose all their flavour. They can go right in at the end when we're nearly done. So that is everything ready. Quick, efficient, and we're ready to go. But I thought, you know what? You've all been doing a fantastic job of learning how to cook. So here's a little addition that you can add to the top. And if you served it up to someone, they'd be like, oh yeah. I've just got the end of a bit of bread here, and we're just going to make some little like crunchy, crispy, nibbly bits to go on top. It's great. It gives it a texture. It gives it just that little bit of fanciness, and it takes only 1 minute to make. So you can either cut them up or tear them up, however you wish. And then we're just going to fry them off in a pan with a little bit of butter until they go golden brown. We'll give them some salt and pepper, and these we're just going to crumble all over the top of the finished dish. I've torn them up quite small, but I like them to be like this because you don't want like big chunky croutons on your pasta. This is just, like I said, to give it a little bit of texture on the top. And when we cook these in the pan, I'm going to put a little clove of garlic. I'm just going to crush it under the knife, and we're going to put some salt and pepper in there, and we're just going to lightly toast them in the butter, and it's just going to be really good. So here's a little pan for the croutons. We'll go a good teaspoon of butter, 1 little garlic clove, and we'll just give that a quick crack. He can go in there. We're going to melt the butter, salt and pepper, and then toast the breadcrumbs. So the water here on for the pasta. As you can see, it's quite a large pot and good to have the lid. So we're just going to season that up. And when I say quite a lot, I mean a good 2 teaspoons. This is the pan for the croutons. That's the butter melted and the garlic, and I've added some salt and pepper. And I'm just going to add in the bread, and we're just going to let that cook slowly and just keep tossing it in the butter so that we get a nice golden crouton. We're also going to do that on a fairly low heat because we don't want the butter to burn. You can hear it starting to sizzle. You just want to make sure you keep an eye on that while it cooks. You can hear that they're getting a little bit crunchy now. So just make sure you maybe lower the heat a bit because it might be getting a bit too hot. As you can see, they've soaked up all the butter and they're starting to become crisp. Give them a little feel. Oh yeah, they're done. So they can just come off and sit to the one side, and they're ready for when we want to garnish. Okay, the water is boiling, so we're going to add the pasta, which is going to take about 10 minutes to 12 minutes, just depending on what the packet says. So we'll pop that in first and then we'll get the rest of it ready. I like to put the lid just on the corner so that it's not fully on there and the water doesn't have a chance to overflow. Once you put your pasta in and it's almost come back up to a boil, just give it a little stir to make sure that it's not stuck to the bottom. And then just pop the lid half on and pop on your timer. So while the pasta's boiling, we're going to get the sauce ready to go. The longest thing that's going to take to cook is the chicken. So we're going to put this large pan on. I'm going to go for a low to medium heat. We don't want to cook this too hard. And we're just going to warm up the little bit of oil that we've put in the pan. And then we're going to saute off the chicken. I've just used veg oil here. There's a little bit of olive oil already in the homemade pesto, so we don't need loads. And you know, the olive oil is yummy to drizzle on top. We're just going to be cooking, so this veg is absolutely fine. If you pop your hand just above the pan, you can feel how warm the pan's getting. And also, if you move the oil around and it's become like this, slightly loose, you know that it's probably warm enough. You can also do a check of just putting in one bit of chicken. There's a little sizzle, so I reckon we can go with the rest. Break it up as you put it in. We'll put the chicken in like this, seal it on one side and then turn it over. We probably need to cook it for 4 or 5 minutes until it's nearly cooked. So I've just popped the chicken in. It's been in for maybe a minute. As you can see here on some of the edges, it's starting to go opaque, which means it's cooking. But we just want to try and get a little bit of colour on there without it being too hot. We'll just give the pasta another stir to make sure it's not stuck on the bottom, which it hasn't. It's always good to use a large pot of water because then the pasta can move around. The chicken has maybe been in on this side for 2 minutes, so we're just going to give it a little flip. We're going to give it a little bit of salt and pepper. So we're going to add in our onion, garlic and thyme so that we can start to cook that off. This is also why you don't want the pan too hot, because otherwise the garlic and the onion will burn when you add them. Because we want to soften these down. We don't want to hard cook them. We want to make sure that they're nice and soft and have let out all their sweetness because we've cooked them slowly. Also, when you're cooking, you want to make sure that you don't take the pan off the heat too much, because that will mean that it will lose heat. So always just move your ingredients around. Because we've chopped that chicken thigh up quite small, you can see that actually it's not that far off being cooked. That's why you put the lid on the corner, in case it decides to bubble over. The onion and the garlic have been cooking for about 2 minutes, and I'm just going to turn the temperature up ever so slightly because we're going to add the tomatoes and the courgettes, and for this we probably want it to be a little bit hotter. What's great about using a large pan is that you can kind of push these things, which are mostly done, to one side and just move that corner onto the flames more so that we can saute off the courgette. We've just put the courgette in and we're just going to let it sit like that on that one side for just 2 minutes so that we maybe get a little bit of colour, and then we'll mix it all together and we'll add the tomatoes. The pasta has got about 5 minutes left cooking, and by that point we should have all of this ready. And because the courgette's going to let out a little bit more moisture, we're going to turn the temperature up a little bit more so we can get a little bit of a fry on that. You know, what's quite good as well is when you cut up the courgette, some of the bits are smaller, they'll cook faster. Some of the bits that are bigger will stay a bit crunchier. It doesn't have to be perfect when you're cooking for yourself at home. And now we've got a little bit of colour on that courgette, we're going to add the tomatoes. We're going to cook them for just 1 minute, and we're also just going to give the pasta a quick check. I would say that the pasta is about a minute away, so what we're going to do is we're going to strain it off because we're going to finish cooking it in the sauce. And I'm also going to take a ladleful of the pasta water and add it to this pan because that is full of starch, and that's going to make our sauce a lot thicker and creamier. So pasta can come off and we'll strain it. We're going to add our yogurt and the pesto. We're going to tip in the pasta. Doesn't matter if it hasn't fully drained. That's going to create a little bit of sauce, and then we're going to give it a shake. Oh yeah. Nice and juicy. Mix all that pesto and yogurt through. We're going to add the parmesan and the basil. Turn off the heat. Lots of black pepper. And we're going to serve it up. So it's come off the stove. We've added the parmesan. Give it a shake. Oh yeah. And then we're going to serve it up. Oh, got a nice bit of sauce in the bottom. Plenty of chicken to go around. A touch more black pepper. And to finish it, the crunchy croutons. A quick meal full of loads of vegetables, yummy homemade pesto, a little bit of protein with your chicken, or if you wanted you could put in some fish. It doesn't take long. I promise you, you can customize it as ever you wish. The pasta water is really a great little addition to make your sauce just that little bit more unctuous and thick. And that all important, cheeky double carb. A little crunchy crouton and a delicious little pasta swirl. I suppose now all I've got to do is give it a taste. Just like a mama used to make. Anyway, if you want to see me do some more really bad impressions and make some more delicious food, hit that subscribe button so you don't ever miss out. I hope that you guys can get this one together too. And like I said, them little crispy crunchy croutons on top will really be a game changer. So I'm off out of here, and I'll catch you guys next week. Thanks.